That's that 30 seconds that we just talked about, right? The play did not go my way. It wasn't the way I thought it was going to go, right? I'm a former professional athlete. I've been to war. I've been back. I've done all these things. I've lived a healthy life. I roll. I eat right. I run. I'm as healthy as a horse. I don't get colds. And all of a sudden, he says the word cancer. And I'm like, hey, that's not what I thought you were going to say and not what I expected. I was expecting a pulled glute and a little bit of liquid, and you're telling me that I have a cancerous tumor. So it was definitely one of those moments that like everything kind of changed, kind of put in perspective.
You are listening to the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, brought to you by Salty Electrolytes. On this podcast, your host, Riley Rogers, explores the stories of people who get after it, get things done, and earn their salt. You will hear from high achievers who discuss what makes them tick, how they got to where they are today, and where they're headed tomorrow. Perhaps this podcast will help you go earn your salt. Today I got my friend Daryn Colledge on here. Daryn and I met on the jiu-jitsu mats, and I invited him on here today because he's got a fascinating life story. He played for the NFL. He was just a world-class level NFL player, and he also has some really interesting life after that I want to talk about. So, Daryn, my friend, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Riley. I feel like I've got like a lot to live up to now. It's like people are gonna be like, "Well, that was interesting," or they're gonna be like, "That wasn't that interesting." Next.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. You've done some things in life that most people only dream of, and I'm excited to talk about it here. But tell us who you are, where you grew up, what life was like as a kid.
Oh man, you've already covered the basics. I'm Daryn Colledge, but I'm originally from Alaska. Grew up born in Fairbanks, raised kind of in North Pole, but also raised up and down the West Coast. Father's work took us to California. Mom's work took us to Washington. Mom's work took us back to Alaska and was there for middle school and high school and most of the formative years. Was fortunate enough to depart from there. Moved to Idaho to play football at Boise State. They were kind enough to pay for my school. The one way I was going to get actual school paid for that wasn't the military route. Didn't have there was no trust fund waiting for me. There was no college fund, blue collar family all the way. First man in my family to actually leave and go get a college degree. And then was again fortunate enough after that to have about a 9-year NFL career. Followed by that, did the military thing for about 8 years. After that, just short stint with BSU. After that, now I'm a restaurateur and hospitality guy. So working in that space as we go. So, and it's just the next chapter, I guess.
Shoot, man, that's a summary of a lot of stuff going on there. So tell me this. So I confessed to you beforehand that I do not know football. Okay.
Yeah.
I played for 1 month in 7th grade, and coach stuck me out on the line and he said, just hit the guy in front of you. And that was all the instruction and coaching I ever got. And so there was no point to me, and I quit. So I just never, after that point, I just kind of was like, I'm going to go play something I know what is going on, So, so as you're growing up, did you play football as a kid?
No, not really.
When did you start?
So I'm from a small town. I grew up like most kids playing soccer and baseball and doing all those kind of things through my youth. And funny enough, I was a much better baseball player than I was a football player. But when you go to a small town school and you're a sports kid, you kind of end up playing every sport. It wasn't, back when you and I were kids, the club sports scene didn't really exist like it does now. Kids weren't as specialized. We played every sport. Basketball season came around, you played basketball. Football was around, it was that, and it was track and field and wrestling and as such. And I got into high school, I started to play more and more sports. Found out like it was, my parents kind of had the rule. If I wasn't playing, I was working. And I found out if I just played more, I didn't have to work as much. And I got, things were a little more taken care of. And I loved sports and I loved my buddies and I loved hanging out. Oddly enough, I played football as a freshman. Same as you, I kind of got into camp, and then I had a little bit of a knee injury. Nothing too serious, but it was going to threaten kind of baseball. And the doc was like, "Hey, man, like you do this and something goes wrong, it's going to be baseball." And baseball, like I said, was my primary sport, so I dropped out of it my freshman year, and only came back into football my senior year because I was dating one of the cheerleaders, and found out that we got to do some road trips together, and I had a couple buddies playing there. Like and it's high school and it's North Pole, Alaska. There's 15 people live in the whole town, so it's one of those things where it's like you go out and you play, and loved it, and had a coach that believed in me. saw an opportunity for me and was like, hey man, I think we can get school paid for, because at that point I had a couple baseball scholarship offers, but they weren't 100%. I was looking across the street at the military base on what it would look like to go to the military and go that route and go get my education, because I knew I wanted to go get a college degree, and was looking for pathways to do that. Not because I wanted to leave North Pole as much as I just wanted that opportunity to go out and succeed and get a degree. My mom had kind of instilled that value in me, and football ended up being that route. And it ended up just being a thing that the reason I chose football over all of them was because Boise State was kind enough to give me a full scholarship, and that's what I needed. I needed somebody who could pay for it all. And I was like, well, this is my newest sport. It'll be the most exciting, it's the most fun. Don't embarrass the family, don't embarrass the state, and go out and try hard.
It's interesting, man, because that's kind of a late start for most people, I imagine. If you talk
Yeah.
to your teammates, they probably would have said different, right?
I think that you can make the argument it's not a late start when it comes to athleticism, right? Like I played lots of sports. I played basketball, I wrestled, I was on the track and field team. I had high-end eye coordination. I knew how to box people out in basketball. What college athletics is and what all athletics are, and you know this from being on the mats, is a lot of it comes down to athleticism is what the guys need. And then after that, it comes down to technique, right? And you can overcome some athleticism with technique. Guys that are really, really good, that are technicians, can overcome the athleticism. But most guys, especially in sports like, even more football than, yeah, I would say jujitsu, it's one of those things where like athleticism can't ever be taught. But the technique of the game can be. And what they saw in me was they saw, arguably a piece of clay that they could work with and say, hey, he had the athleticism we need. We can train him to do the other things. And actually talking to my coaches about it at a later date, because I've obviously talked about it, and like say, you guys really took a chance. They saw somebody that didn't have all the bad habits of maybe somebody that had played for a long time, that had learned from different coaches. They felt like they had something really, really raw that they could use to learn. And the position I was coming into as a defensive end when I got to college, I was really, really talented at, and was an athletic position. It was just be powerful, be strong, be faster than the other guy across from you. Learning to be a technician as an offensive lineman was a much different thing, but they saw that after I got there. They were like, oh, hey, we can actually do something even different than we had planned for him. And I tell most people, and I tell most parents, when they ask me about their kids playing sports, like, should we be specializing? I really, really don't think kids should be specializing at this point. I think kids should be learning a little bit of everything, trying to do everything. And athletes will rise to the top. College coaches will find the athletes, whatever sport they're playing. And your kid may not be the best on their team at what they're doing, but they may show the signs of what is to come and how they develop. I feel like right now we're putting kids in a real, real tough position with the amount of club sports we play. And I've got one. I've got a daughter who plays volleyball year round. She's a specialist at her sport. And it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like some of that's getting cheated. I feel like some of these parents are also getting cheated along the way because of the amount of money they're spending to put these kids through club sports. But it's a tough market out there right now. I think sports is really, really evolving. That's a vein we could go down probably a long way.
That is an interesting thing, man, because you talk about the amount of time, the amount of money that parents spend on this thing. And a lot of times I feel like it's in a place where it's almost like there's some false hopes. There's so much competition going on there that it's not all kids are cut out for that life of sports.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you sort of alluded to that I think is overlooked is that the resentment a kid that's pushed too hard early on can start to feel.
Yeah, I think there can be a real, real burnout, right? Like I made a lot of choices based on my sports, on what I had time for, what I wanted to do, and what my family could afford, And back when I played, through high school and stuff like that, it was one of those things where like it was like, $40 for a set of cleats or glove, and, or $100 to play on the high school team for pads or whatever it might be. And now, you look at youth sports, you look at club sports, and people are spending 5, 10, 15, $20,000 a year. Kids are traveling to Florida on 12U soccer teams, or they're every weekend they're in Salt Lake. And I'm trying to explain to parents that there's no more NFL teams than there was when I started playing football.
Right.
Most universities are cutting back on some athletics, and other athletics are growing. Most kids can be scouted within middle school and the beginning of high school to tell you if they're going to be, at the level to play. And we're selling these parents on $1,000 camps, multi-thousand-dollar travel trips, specialized gear and training, all for the idea that they're going to get a college scholarship that's going to be paid for, that you've already paid for twice over anyways. And I think that that's a really, really hard thing. I think there's a lot of pressure on parents. I think there's a lot of pressure on kids. I think that parents feel like they need to do that to support their kids or give their kids opportunity, but also then the kids feel like they've got a certain commitment. And I think there's an embitterment between the two of them too, when it comes to like, am I literally watching the same team I just watched last year play? We haven't gotten any better, but I'm now $15,000 more in the hole than I was before. And I read a
Mm.
really interesting book called Taking Back the Game, that's really talked about the evolution of youth sports over the last decade and how it's turned into a multi-billion-dollar money-making apparatus. You know, we're talking about these club collections, these coaching empires, these club teams that have, 12 different teams under the same age group and all this kind of stuff. And we feel like if our kids aren't involved in that, then we're somehow cheating them, or they're not, or they're going to miss their opportunity when, I mean, the idea behind team sports originally was just the idea of learning to win and lose as a group of people, how to handle that, how to deal with those emotions. And it keeps growing. I get it, man. Money's changing all that. NIL is changing all that. NIL in the high school level is changing that. And I don't think always for the as somebody who's been through it, I don't think it's probably for the better.
When you say NIL, man, define that. I only became familiar with that after I started
Yeah.
my electrolyte company.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, name, image, likeness was a huge thing in college. You know, really became something in college. And when I played college athletics, you owned none of your name, image, and likeness. You signed with the team. You were lucky enough to have a scholarship. They could sell your jersey, your name, your likeness, your picture. I used to have bobblehead dolls of me. If anybody's been around town long enough, we were the original bobblehead dolls here in town that were at the Jackson's gas stations. And I walked in there one day and they were selling them for like, you bought a Coke and you got one of those for $5 and people collected them. I think there was like 6 of them in the first run. And I remember walking across the Jacksons because I just got done with a practice or a workout. It didn't really matter. And I think I had about $8 to my name and I was heading over there to get a soda or something with my little bit of spending money. And I walked in the door and I saw my actual picture, this brief bio of me and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is a lot different than just selling a jersey with no name on the back and like everybody knows it's for you, or like a Kellen Moore, something like that. But like to have my actual name, image, and likeness on something and to have profitability on that, and I get none of that. So the system started obviously in one of those places where it felt like players were marginalized. And over enough time, the NCAA, sort of like the banks, thought they were too big to fail. Told everybody to just be happy with what they got. Eventually, the legal system, somebody finally fought the fight that was big enough, and the courts overturned. And now it's a cascading effect. The pendulum has definitely swung to the complete opposite side, which I think is not right either. Obviously, that we want to be somewhere in the middle where, and now you see it starting to push down into the high school sports, and you're starting to see kids sign, multi-million-dollar deals in high school, hundreds of thousands of dollars in high school, free cars, to get these kids to go to bigger schools. And what effect that's going to have on smaller tier sports, what effect that's going to have on Title IX and women's athletics, university athletics in general, the ability for college football to step away from the NCAA, which will absolutely decimate college sports and Title IX in general. I think that we are at the, it's going to be really, really interesting next 5 years. And I think it could get really, really bad, especially on the women's sports side, and especially on the smaller men's sports sides. You look at wrestling programs, you look at, even track and field and swimming, the Olympic sports sides. I think that we've got some unnavigatable terrain in front of us. So there's a lot of people sitting in the corner, rah-rahing it and being like, yep, they're really excited about their team. And, like Tennessee and Texas spending $100 million on NIL. And they're like, that's my squad. I get it. But when they look over their daughter, who will never, ever have a chance to play college sports now because those football teams are going to leave and take their 85 scholarships with them, is going to be a reckoning that I think will come down the road.
Ooh, so it's kind of an overcorrection in that world, huh?
Yeah, for sure. But, I think anybody that's been around for more than 5 years, I think realizes that that's how the world works, right? I don't care if it's NIL, religion, politics, or, my protein diet. It's one of those things where we go from one opposite to the other, and then we swing, and then hopefully eventually we settle in the middle and we find some real balance. But it'll be interesting to see how this one goes, because, and I made this statement about 5 years ago when this first happened, that If the decisions, if we're not invested, if we're not involved and we're not speaking our mind, we don't come together as fans and as parents to actually speak to this. If we allow ourselves to be part of the grinder, this is going to get decided by 10 guys in suits all around a table. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's being decided
Mm.
by TV, it's being decided by corporate, and it's being decided by hedge fund money. And it's just one of those things that's what's gonna happen. And until we decide to, either with our money, our pockets, our feet, or our eyes, decide to do something about it, it's going to just keep going that direction. And I got a feeling, sadly, I think it's going to ruin some of it. But again, it'll probably just become an amateur league, and it'll probably become a semi-pro football situation. And the NFL is not getting any smaller, so it's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, it just may change the way we look at it. But some people will get ran over for it for sure.
It's an interesting perspective. The thing you brought up about swinging from one extreme to the other, right? And then
Yeah, yeah,
eventually, hopefully, you come back to that kind of center space where there's some balance and some, some real meat to it. That's an interesting life perspective, man, because I think we do that. You mentioned protein diet, right? It's like
yeah,
you maybe go, oh, I'm going full vegetarian now. It's like a full keto.
yeah.
And then
Exactly.
somewhere
I'm
in
going
between you find
carnivore.
out that yeah. Now I realize I actually need more of everything. So
Yeah,
um, yeah, I love that, dude. I love it. I want to back up a little bit because you and I both talked about coaches, right?
yeah,
Growing up, and we had these coaches, and in my experience, football seemed interesting to me. Part of it was because of cheerleaders, but part of it
yeah,
was part of it was there was this kind of world I had never really paid attention to other than me and my buddies in the park, right?
yeah,
And but I got in there and I was so discouraged because it literally was the coach stuck me there and he says you're a bigger guy compared to the other students, so let's stick you in here on the line, and no more instruction than that. And it was like, hit
yeah.
the guy in front of you, and it was almost like I couldn't pry more information out of him. Like, what am I supposed to
Mhm.
do here?
Yeah,
Am I keeping him from something? I'd never really figured it out, and so it was discouraging. And what it probably kept me from pursuing that more because
absolutely.
I was like, I don't have any direction to run on here. So can you talk about that a little bit and what role a coach
Yeah,
plays?
absolutely. I think one of the great things about sports is the idea of leadership and the idea of being guided and coached, especially in our youth. And I tell everybody, I don't care if it's for my sports programs, my military service, or in the jobs, the things I do today. Like leadership matters, and coaching matters, and the ability to take care of, we'll just speak to us because we're men, like the ability to coach young men into to being men. And obviously that happens on the women's side too, and girls becoming women, and those kind of things, where it's like the direct effect that those coaches can have on your life, that's much beyond winning and losing the game, is what they can help you with in winning and losing in life. And you may find that you never become an NFL player. 99.9% of people that play football never ever play at that level. But the things that they've gained from great coaches and great men to become great men themselves, and great fathers and husbands and brothers, or whatever it might be, all of that is a direct reflection of that person that taught them or helped them. And you look at anybody from, like, the quiet coaches that people talk about, that are very much like, very monk style. It's like it's a thinking man's game, to the Bobby Knights who throw chairs, right? There's everybody in between. And I tell everybody that the greatest thing I ever got was the fact that I got to have amazing coaches in my life, and I got to have horrible coaches in my life. I've had great leaders in my life and terrible leaders in my life, and each one has a direct impact on the way I want to be and the things that I want to take from them. But the great thing about every single one of them is I've learned something from every single one of them, and I've gained from
Mm.
every one of them. I try not to look back at my terrible coaches and be like, man, that was really a crappy experience, and they've ruined something for me. I really try to take those experiences and say, hey, there's something I can take from there. They may have one or two things that they did really, really well, that they were extremely focused on, that, whether it's their willingness to want to win, or to do whatever it takes, or whatever it might be, but also showing me the person or leader I don't want to be. And each one of those things can be why you stay in something, or why you find a passion for something, and
Hmm.
why you don't. And I think you and I were in the same experience because we both were instructed under Keith. amazing man, had a great opportunity. And when Keith passed, I loved everybody that was still there, still enjoyed all those guys there, but there was nobody there that couldn't say something changed, right? A new guy had to come in and lead, no matter who that was going to be. And whether they did a great job or they did a bad job, it didn't matter. The leader of that room had changed, and everybody was waiting for that change. And that's what great leaders do. They set a standard, they set a tempo, they make you want to be in their presence, they make you want to get better, they make you want to do the things at a high level. And when that leadership changes, whether it be through tragedy or transition, they leave a hole that somebody else has to fill. And sometimes when bad leaders, that hole you're excited to see filled. When a great leader leaves, there's some trepidation in that. And I think that that's what
Hmm.
great coaching is. And I think that's what sports bring out in a lot of people. Also, I think it's one of those things where once you've been through that kind of situation, it helps you out in life. And the fact that like I've been yelled at, I've known what it's like to have everything on the line, and I know what it's like to fail. And I think that those things, coaches and again, sports help us with the regular things in life.
Yeah. Do you have any standout moments where you had that great coach that gave you hard advice or told you something you really didn't want to hear at the time, but you had to contend with that? And
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it happened as early as my freshman year here. Like I came from, I left my family had a terrible divorce when I was going through my junior year and through my senior year. Um, I had to grow up real fast. A whole thing, a bunch of stuff we don't need to dive into. But I didn't leave a great family situation. Left my small town North Pole, went to Boise, and this is no metropolis, especially not in 2000. This is in LA, but to me, this was a big city compared to North Pole, Alaska. And I'd gotten in that college life and I was partying, I was having a good time, and my grades were plummeting, and I was hiding from things at home. And I was using, alcohol and partying and whatever to stay away from that life. And I had a coach that stepped up and no different than a father figure and said, like, hey, here's what I see, here's what I believe you can be, and here's the path you're going down. And you either have a choice that you can come out here and be a leader and you can take the next step to become one of the guys and come out and do some great things, or you can wash out now because that's the path that you're absolutely headed down. And from that moment on, my life changed in athletics. My life changed at the university, and for my football team, my dedication to the program changed completely. I hid myself in the film room and the weight room instead of the bar. I was still in college. I'm not going to say I never drank again. It wasn't anything like that, but I turned that life to a 90% over there and a 10% over here instead of a 90 and a 10. And it was one of the first times somebody gave me a real reality check on what that took, because I had spent a lifetime being in a small town and being bigger, stronger, and faster than a lot of people, had a lot of success that was not easy. I think that's the wrong word, but it's one of those things where I had an advantage over most people, that my athleticism allowed me to play at a certain level without the kind of effort that a lot of people had to put in just to meet that spot. And I was now in a place where that wasn't going to be good enough. It was going to take effort and work to get there. And then that was what drove me through a 9 year NFL career. That moment changed, built the man over the next 3 years that was able to take on the NFL for 9 years and continue to be that person. And without that one coach, again, that one man who cared enough to say, hey, here's what I see, here's what you're showing me, which one do
yeah.
you want to be? I probably wouldn't be who I am today.
So in that moment when he came to you for that, what was your reaction, man? Because I know I can think of a few times in my life where somebody's come to me and just gave me that like straight up in
Yeah.
your face advice. And at the time I would kind of bucked it, just like, no, dude, you know what you're talking about. But did you
Yeah.
have that
I
experience?
think I think that there's always a natural, bristling of, we all have our egos, we all have our, you don't see it the way I see it, but there was part of me that honestly knew that I wasn't doing what I needed to do. And the great thing is that when you get graded in college, your transcripts are sitting right there. And when he lays
Oh,
out your transcripts and says, hey, this is what eligibility looks like, and this is what eligibility doesn't look like, that's pretty concrete. You can't run away from that. There's no excuses, can't hide from that number. So I, yeah, I think I was obviously embarrassed, and disappointed with myself and knew how and why I'd gotten there. But I needed somebody to be the adult in the room and call it out, because I didn't have that in my life at that time. I didn't have an adult, and I definitely wasn't an adult. I wasn't making as much as I want to pretend that I was, a man at that time in my life. I was making unadult decisions as a 19-year-old, 18-year-old, as an 18-year-old adult, as they say.
Do you have a soft spot in your heart today for that guy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Coach Strauss. I would tell him in a heartbeat. He's if he ever need anything, he can always call me. We stay in touch to this day. He's actually back coaching men again. He did a stint through some other schools and then went in the NFL for a while, and now he's back helping guys at Boise State again, and hopefully having an effect on their lives like he had on mine. But he was, guys like him and guys like my high school coaches. There's certain men in your life that show you, and women in your life too. But me, obviously, I've been around sports for so long. But this might be, somebody's grandmother or aunt or whoever, that show you the people that you want to be, and the person you want to be to other people out there in the world. And they remind you that sometimes it doesn't take that much. Sometimes it's a short conversation to really change somebody's life. And he had that impact on me. And I've never been great with it. I tell most people, as much as I like to talk, I'm not really a talker. I'm not really a speech giver. I like to lead by example. But he showed me that sometimes it takes sitting somebody down, looking them in the eye and being like, hey, here's the reality. And then they get to do what they want with that, right? They get to make the decision on whether they're going to take that information in, or they're going to buck that, like you talked about, and really, really listen to it. But if you care about the opinion of the person that's talking to you, and they believe in you, then I think that's a much different conversation. It comes down to those. I don't listen to people that aren't on the same journey as me. But if they are on that same journey as me, and they have my best interest at heart, and I trust their opinion, then I hope I can hear what they have to say.
Yeah, I think that takes a level of humility for one, but there are those people, man, that just give it to you straight. And I said it multiple times on this podcast that we don't have enough people in our lives that'll just give it to us straight. And so it's refreshing when we get it. It's like, oh man, it hurts at the time, but I love it.
Well, I think, we live in a world of, we fear outcomes, right? We fear what honesty takes. We fear what criticism looks like. We're our egos are our self as in, what we see ourselves as. I think that stuff's extremely fragile, created by the society that we live in today, when we're afraid to embarrass ourselves in front of people, and we feel like if we say something and they don't take it away, that's going to look bad on us. And then we feel like if we have to receive something from somebody, that also looks bad on us. And we have this back and forth. Well, then again, 90% of things don't get said. And I don't care if that's your coach, your child, or your wife or your sister. Like, it's one of those things where we have to have this line of communication where we care enough about each other to have those conversations. If I'm not willing to have that conversation with you, or we're not in a place to have that conversation, then our relationship isn't at that place yet, right? Like, if I can't hand you down, it's no different than when you and I roll on the mat and I'm a blue and you're a purple, and you give me a suggestion. Well, I either have to be in a humility to say, like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. Hey, thank you for the guidance. And you being willing to hand that down. And sometimes that's extremely hard, right? I've been in the place where I've rolled with somebody below me and been like, do I really say something? But some people want to hear that things. And again, I'm going to put that stuff out there. I'm going to try to speak to the things that I think can help and to make people around me better. I can rise the tide and try to pick up every boat. And you get to choose what you want to do with that. And then based on that reaction will tell me, is this a relationship will continue that I want to try to continue to help you grow? Or is it one that you're like, hey, no, this is just a one-time back and forth. Okay, well, that's fine. Cool. But if I just assume that every relationship is just a one-time transaction, then none of us get a chance to grow, and the community doesn't grow.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's well said, man. Daryn, you talked about coming up in a small town and being sort of the big fish in a small pond there. But then you get to this college level ball and you figure out that that tide is raised, if you will. The standard has raised. And now there's a bunch of big, strong dudes in there that in that pond, right? So talk about that a little bit and what you did to adjust. Because now you have to work, right? All right, you sweaty buggers. That liquid dripping off your forehead and down your back contains minerals that are critical for high performance. If you don't put those minerals back, you're not going to perform well. This is where Salty Electrolytes comes in. Salt contains 6 electrolyte minerals plus a touch of iodine to help you replenish after a hard workout. Salt is the only electrolyte supplement to pair every mineral with its counterpart, giving you the most robust mineral profile on the market, period. Head over to goearnyoursalt.com today to get some for yourself. Use the code GOEARNYOURSALT to get 15% off your first order. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
Yeah, now the workload changes, right? Like some of us are gifted enough and whatever it be, business, life, physical, whatever, that you're above the average in your circle, right? And I was in North Pole, Alaska, based on the size of the population and talent. There was people that were better at me at some things, but my ability to play most every sport and do those things allowed me to do certain things based on size, athletic ability, and natural talent, genetics, whatever you want to call it, gift of God for some people.
Hey, throw that out
And
there
then
real quick. You're 6'5"?
yeah, 6'5".
6'5", and I think at the time we were grappling together a few years back, you were weighing 275 ish in that
Yeah,
range. But you had come down from. So we're going to talk about that as it goes on. But
yeah,
you
yeah. I've been as
you were
high
much
as three hundred
larger in your
twenty
NFL
five.
days, right?
Yeah, I've been as heavy as 325 pounds. So, it's one of those
Yeah.
things where, yeah, you're bigger, stronger, faster. And all of a sudden you get into a place where, okay, everybody's bigger, stronger, faster, right? So then you have to start separating yourself by, okay, I need to continue to get bigger, stronger, faster, right? Continue that physical growth. But then it starts coming down to technical knowledge, right? My ability to play at a better angle with better levers, with better leverage, play faster because I take better angles. All that stuff starts to matter more and more, right? You can't just out athletic everybody. You're still going to find people that you out athletic, right? And as I got bigger and stronger and faster in the gym, I could I could cut back on some things because I could physically start manhandling somebody, or I could out talent the kid across from me, especially when you're at the college level, right? Because sometimes you end up playing a freshman
Hmm.
and you're a senior or a junior, but sometimes you're the freshman and they're the senior, so there's always this physical combination that's changing, but you're learning to become a more precise weapon, at that level. You're learning how to take better angles in your film study, and all those things is what you grow really at the college level. High school level, depending on what kind of school you played and what kind of offense you played and defense you played and whatever, could be extremely simple or could be more complex. Some of these colleges, some of these high school now are running college level, offenses when we're talking about these run and shoots or whatever whatever system you might be in. And now everything's getting more complicated and college teams are running pro, but whatever. But all it is it's a continual sharpening of your athletic ability and your technique in the system. And then when you leave that, you go again to, like, it's it's being sifted, right? It's just the sand's getting sifted. Each time it's getting finer and finer and finer until you reach the NFL. And then you start playing against people where they're the best of the best and everybody's the best of the best. And everything is separated by, it's not true. 80% of us are sifted as the physical best, talented, and we're all working our butts off every single day and trying to have the best team we can. And then you've got a small portion here at the very bottom that they're there just because they are extremely physical talent and their job is to be the guy on the wedge or the guy that covers punts that just runs down there and outruns everybody and hits things with his face as hard as he can, right? And then you have this weird upper echelon of 10% that are more physically talented than you could have ever imagined, and you just know you'll never be that, right? Like there was people that I played with that I realized it didn't matter how long I worked in the gym or how much film study, I could never physically match the talent or their physical prow that they had. And that's your Hall of Famers. That's your guys that separate themselves from the pack, right? They're the untouchables. And that those things happen in life too. But there's a bunch of us that live in the middle that go up and down that scale every day based on how much work we put in and how good our technique is, and how hard we're willing to work. So, and that's how it works. And you just make the adjustments to that. And then you make a decision every single day. Are you willing to continue that process, to continue to get better. And some guys end their career in injury. Some guys end it because they realize they don't have it anymore, and some guys end their career because they realize they don't want it anymore. And that's, that's life, right? That's, how much work are you willing to put in for the things you want, and have you succeeded enough, accomplished enough, and done what you wanted in whatever your business is. And the NFL in that aspect is no different.
So you just said something there that some guys decide they don't want it. Okay, right.
Mm-hmm.
Describe that, because that's hard to picture for us mere mortals, right? We
Yeah.
sit here and look at it and go, wait a minute, how could you not want that? But
Yeah.
I think we underestimate the amount of work that you guys have to put in.
Yeah, no, I think I don't think it's a mere mortal situation, right? Like everybody picks their thing, and sometimes your thing gets picked for you, right? And sometimes you're put into paths and avenues that get you going. But almost everybody makes that decision every single day when they're not in the NFL, or they are. My decision was based in the NFL, right? I got to play 9 years. I was a starter my entire career, except for my very first game in the NFL. I became a starter game two, never relinquished a start for the rest of my career, except for 2 games I missed an injury in my ninth year. And I was staring at a 10th season, and I had an offer on the table to continue to play. I was still starting. The money was significant. I had just come off another back injury. I had just come off another major concussion. And my daughters were 4 and 2. And I was a 315-pound offensive lineman in the NFL. And I was laying on my couch one day recovering from a back injury. And I realized I couldn't roll over and pick up my kid and put him on me. Like, I was too hurt to roll over. My 4-year-old was crawling, or my 4-year-old was walking over to me. And my daughter was getting ready to turn 2, was kind of crawling over and hanging out in the living room with me. And I realized, I was like, I can't pick my kid up. And all of a sudden, this big reality check came of, like, I was thinking of all my buddies that were messed up, just offensive linemen in general, friends I was close to that, major back surgeries, knees, elbows, concussions, light sensitivity, couldn't sleep, night terrors, neck injuries, couldn't rotate, all this kind of stuff that they were playing through. And I was going, is this really, really what I want? Or am I doing this because I have no other options? Or am I doing this because I need the money? Or am I doing this because I just haven't really thought about what else I want to do, and I'm afraid to walk away from it because it is what I do? And at that moment, I realized I didn't want it enough anymore for what it was going to take to be great. I knew I could limp through another year. I know I could theoretically steal money. Like, I could have showed up and took a paycheck from these guys, knowing that I wouldn't be 100%, knowing that my heart wouldn't fully be in it. And I'm sure that there's people that do it. I'm sure that there's people that watch this podcast that go in some days and put a half-ass, job in for the day. Like, that happens. That's life, right? There's plenty of people out there that are like, hey man, I'm gonna get as much money from this company as I possibly can, right? I just decided that I didn't want to be that. And I also decided that I didn't want to go out there and take another injury and be one of my buddies that was out there that couldn't get up a staircase at 40 years old because he decided to play this game for so long. And plenty of guys do it. Plenty of guys, they come from places, they come from poverty, or they know nothing else other than football, and they'll do it until the day they roll them out in a wheelchair. And I get that, and I respect that. I'm fine with that. Like, we all make our own decisions. But I knew I wasn't willing to put in what it took anymore, or roll the dice anymore to play at that level. And it was time to get on to something else. And I think that some people think that that's hard to fathom, but every single person does that every single day. Everybody's got the opportunity to walk away from what they're doing right now to chase some dream of making more, or working less, or starting a company, or I'm going to drive for Uber until I launch my .com company, or whatever it might be. But they're held back by a fear of failure. They're held by a fear of, maybe I'm not willing to put in as much work as that's possibly going to take, or the challenges. I'm afraid to live in my car, or go without, or whatever it might be. They're in a comfort with where they're at. So I don't think what we do is so much different. It's a physical difference based on a job, and people look at it, and the money's huge, and it's only gotten bigger since I left. But it's one of those things where we're making the same decisions every single day that everybody else is, which is, do I have enough? Can I give more? Can I get more? Do I want more? And that's where, to each their own.
You talk about in there that trap that kind of happens where
Mhm.
you asked yourself, am I doing this because I love it, or am I doing this because I don't have any other options, right?
Yeah.
I see that not just in athletics, but I see that in a lot of places where someone gets to a certain lifestyle level in the thing they're
Mhm.
doing, and then to start over the bottom of something else and come up is it's too much of a dip. They
Yeah.
can't. You mentioned afraid to live in your car. I love that because there's that sacrifice sometimes when we're starting a new thing, that when you're young and you don't have anything anyways and you're just moving out of mom and dad's house, a little
Yeah.
stint living in your car is not a big deal. But when you're 40 years old and you've got kids and and all of
Yeah.
a sudden some of those things aren't even an option anymore, right?
Absolutely, right? Everybody's life situation is totally different, and everybody's life, gets into a place where they reach a comfort level that they want to be at, right? And I think, almost everybody struggles with uncomfortable, and that's the hard thing. And that's whether that's physical or financial or whatever it might be. Like, each person struggles with that in their own way, but like you say, it's sports, it's business, it's your marriage, right? Like, I've got plenty of buddies that have a marriage that they're like, they're not trying to make it better, they're not trying to make it worse, they've just kind of hit this place where they're like, hey, this is what we do, this is what we've done for the last 15 years, so we're just going to keep going with that. And it's like, well, I mean, how would you thought about working on it, maybe making it better? Do you want to try a little harder, or it's going down and you're not worried about it going up? Like, there's all those things that people fear, or asking questions, or making those changes. And I don't, that's a broad spectrum, but yeah, like, it's definitely one of those things where you get into a comfort zone, and most people realize that they're just kind of going through their day, and for them, it's not a next chapter, it's they're going to live in that chapter for as long as they possibly can. And again, I understand that's not everybody, that's so for some people that's exactly what they want and exactly what they look for. But I think that there's a whole population out there, and even some people who aren't willing to admit it to themselves quite yet, that want that change, that need that change, that are looking for that change. I mean, I'm very much, you got a one shot at this thing, and if you're not continuing to grow, if you're not continuing to evolve or change, then you are wasting some time and opportunity, because I'm not gonna lie to you, bill's gonna come due. Like, it's
Yeah.
gonna end, so you might as well make a run, and have some passion in this life, and have some change, and have some challenge, and see where it really really takes you.
Oh man, we could go on to that subject matter for a while for sure. So, um, talk about this, man. Did you ever go to a Super Bowl?
I did. I actually won Super Bowl 45. We beat
Okay.
the Steelers in Dallas.
Oh, wonderful. So
Yeah.
talk about that experience.
Awesome experience. The Super Bowl's pretty much a week long for all the guys who do it. You travel out there for pretty much 6 days. You do a bunch of practices in there. You have a bunch of media time, but the idea is obviously settle you into that idea, not have a bunch of travel right before it. Do all the things, kiss the baby, shake the hands, have a good time, unload. It was surreal at first. I can't lie. I thought I was going to go to my first Super Bowl my second year. We lost to the Giants in the NFC playoffs, in the NFC Championship game, and then they went on to beat the Patriots. And we felt like we were the better team. Kind of let that game slip away. So the chance to go back in my fifth year and actually win it. I came from Boise State, which, we won championships every single year. So I was used to winning games, expected to win games, didn't realize how hard it was in the NFL, in the very beginning. Realized at a much later age that the chance to win, the chance to be in Super Bowls, and chance to do that is extremely rare. The guys like the Patriots, and those guys that have done repeat stuff, it's such an anomaly. The talent level, the luck of the bounce that you need, it's crazy. So to go into Dallas and play those guys, it was absolutely surreal. I tell everybody, when I came out for my first play, it was a little overwhelming. Like, you're in the crowd. It was in Jerry's World. He just built that brand new stadium. The place is absolutely rocking. It's just sold out. And I remember being in the huddle for the first call. Can't remember what the first play is. I'm 99% sure it was a run play because it was like one of those ones, hey, we're just gonna get the first ball off and don't mess it up. It's on one. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in the Super Bowl. I'm in the Super Bowl. And I'm like, I literally was like, I'm putting my hand down in the turf for the Super Bowl and all this kind of stuff. And then I remember I hit the guy across from me and it was all over. Like it was one of those things where it's like it was just a football game. At that point, all of a sudden it was just a battle and it was a back and forth and it was going to be this challenge. And the guy I was playing across from was really, really good. And obviously the Steelers were extremely talented. They had just come off a Super Bowl 2 years before that, I believe. And it didn't feel like anything special until the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden we were in those last like 12 minutes and realized that like we're either going to win or lose the Super Bowl. It was a tight game. I actually had a huge false start at a crucial on a crucial play. And I was like thinking, I'm like, did I just lose this the Super Bowl? Right. Like all of a sudden we're going to be in a, second and long. And like, I just blew it. Like we needed this drive. We need this touchdown. We need to run the clock out, all these kind of things. And Aaron dropped back on the next play and threw like a 22-yard dime for a first down. And I think I was the first one. Like usually I was always down the field, always picking up the receiver, the running back, or whoever caught it or ran it. And I turned around and I like grabbed him and hugged him. And I was like, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because I'm like, I'm pretty sure like there's a bunch of people like in North Pole, Alaska, who are like, Daryn just ruined the Super Bowl for the Packers. And he pulled me out of that and we won it all. And when the final whistle went off and the confetti dropped and all that kind of stuff, it was really, really surreal. My dad was sitting really close. I was able to find him in the stands immediately. My wife, who was pregnant with our second daughter, somehow snuck past security and was down on the field, like out of nowhere. I found her she found me on the field. And then, the Lombardi trophy and the whole 9 yards. And then it was like, I just wanted to hold the trophy and I wanted to get on a plane. I wanted to sleep for like 2 days. Like that's all I wanted to do. And then crazy enough, it was all over and I was like, it was right back to work. And as surreal as as awesome as it was, I think it's like most things in life, you find the top wasn't everything you thought it was going to be. It was in its moment, the work and the memories of what it took to get there and all the things it took along the way to get to that success was what the real gem was of that entire season and the things we did to fight through the wild card, to come up from nowhere and the moments I got to share with those guys and with my teammates. That was the real thing. The ring and the Lombardi trophy have really kind of fallen to the wayside. I tell most people I don't know where the ring is usually. The wife knows it's in the safe. I always forget to take it places. I hate to show it off and I always love to tell the stories. That's about the way that thing goes.
That's you sort of read my mind, man, because I was going to go down that. I was going to ask you a question about that letdown maybe that happens afterwards, because every time in my life when I've achieved a goal, there's that moment where it's just like, oh, I just did it. But man, that fades so fast. And then the next thing you know, you wake up the next morning, it's like, now what? It's back to the grind. You said back to work.
Back to the grind. Yeah. I think most people find out the top of the mountain isn't everything they thought it would be. It's not that there's not greatness in that, whether it's whether it's the person who wants to make $1 million or the person who wants to run a 4 minute mile or whatever they're doing nowadays, or that, that new record marathon time that was ridiculous. It's one of those things where all of the greatness in that is in the work, right? Like I think one of the greatest things in the world I ever heard was like, just please make me useful, right? That's all I want to be. I want to be useful. I want to have a purpose. I want to have a drive. I want to have something I'm doing that's pushing me and moving me forward. I do very, very good when I have goals and I have things to achieve. The problem is when I'm the dog, when I catch the car, like what do I do now that I've caught it? And I think a lot of people are like that, right? Like they want to be in that grind. They want to have that greatness. They want to go out and try to succeed those things. So that's why I tell most people, like, enjoy that goal, but be ready for what the next thing looks, because if you don't believe you're going to get to that goal, then that's, then there's no reason to set the next goal. But if you firmly are putting a goal out there in mind, then you should believe that you're going to reach that goal and be ready for that, but also be ready for what the other side looks like. Cause it's going to be a fast letdown, and hopefully you're able to go, okay, what's next? Cool. Got that one. Let me go out and find the next one. And that's always been kind of my philosophy. What's the next? I tell everybody, I never thought I was going to make it past 5 minutes in the NFL. I was always working on a career that was going to take me, what was I going to do if I wasn't in the NFL? The year was going to end. I was always kind of looking at that, what that next goal was going to be. And then I just kind of got to hang around the NFL for longer than I thought I would.
Yeah. Man, you mentioned one thing that I don't want to go past, but you talked about this. You thought you lost the Super Bowl because you made a mistake and you said false start, right?
Yeah.
There's that thing that happens when we've all done it in our business, in our life, and whether it be sports, whatever it happens to be, where, man, we blew it. We feel like we could have blown it, but you still have to go, right? There's still that, you still had to show up the next play. So what's going on in your head there? Like, how do you handle those moments where it's just like, I'm embarrassed, I'm humiliated, everyone just saw it, but I still have to do the thing that's coming up next.
Yeah.
Can you talk
Well, it's
about
interesting
that a little bit?
because I talked to my daughter about this, right? My daughter's 14 years old, plays competitive volleyball, like I told you. And I try to explain to her a lot that, a lot of her friends, a lot of her teammates, and her included, they'll do something bad on the court. They'll make a mistake, right? And it becomes this over exaggeration. It becomes this down. It becomes this energy. It becomes this whole change. And if you've played any sports, I don't care if it's, pick up basketball at the YMCA or you've played in the Super Bowl. Anybody that's been in a sporting event, whether it's a solo sport or a team sport, knows what momentum feels like, knows that it's more than an idea, that it's a physical thing. You can taste it, you can smell it, you can feel it in the air. And we have to be able to, as athletes and as human beings, as people, to recognize when something doesn't go the way we expect it. We have to anticipate that things aren't ever going to go the way we expect it. We're always going to be reacting to it, right? Like, it's the idea that coaches have 20 plays, right? They write out 20 plays before every single football game. This is my ideal. And usually that lasts about 3 plays. And then you're always adjusting. But that idea is just to lay out, hey, here's my goal. Here's my plan. Here's what's going to happen. I know things are going to go wrong, but here's what I've got my idea. And you have to be able to be like, that moment, take that moment for what it is. Is there something I got to learn between that false start and what happened and the 30 seconds I've got to get back to the huddle, and then the 30 more seconds I've got to get back to that play and start it over? I've got that minute to figure out what I did wrong, why I did wrong, and to let that moment pass. Because you can only control what you can control. There's nothing else. I can't live in the past. I can't live in the future, but I can live right there in that moment. So I tell her, take that moment, breathe it out, let it go. Realize that moment is past, try to learn something from that moment, and move on to the next one, because the next one's coming. And guess what? The next one's coming after that, and the next one's coming after that. And you get to decide whether you're going to start stacking successes after that, or you're going to start stacking failures. You can use that and say, hey, this is my new trend, or that was my anomaly, right? Those are the things that you have to make a decision at. And that doesn't just take sports. That's just life in general, right? We control the things that we control. That's all I can control. I can't always control everything that happens in my business. I can't control what my wife does all the time, or my kids do, or what the bank decides to do, or what the guy in the car next to me when I'm trying to get down Eagle Road is doing. I can't control those things, but I can control how I react to those things, what I decide to do with myself, how I decide to work, how I decide to act, all those things. And all of that happens in that 30 seconds. And you get to make the decision on what you're going to do in that reaction. And that's exactly what I did. I got in there and I said, I screwed up. The play was over, and I'm like, I got to mope about it. I got to feel bad about it for about 30 seconds. I had to be back in the huddle. It was eyes up. It was next play, and I realized the guy across from me is a Pro Bowler, and I had to go back out there and do my job the next play. And that job was going to be harder than the job it just was, because now it's 2nd and 15, and I got a lot longer play to block than I had before, right? But I had to make a decision. But I knew that I was going to go back and do my job. I was going to do what I was trained. I'd made my mistake, and I was just going to move on to the next thing. And I was going to continue to control the things I can control. And that's all I've got. That's all I've got. That's all anybody's got. As long as I'm working on the things I can control, the rest of it is completely out of my hands. And as long as you're okay with that, as long as you can separate that thing and realize that you don't dictate when the sun comes up or the sun goes down, the world's going to happen around you, you just do you, then you're going to probably be all right.
Just do you, man. That's something I've said so many times on this, just with this podcast, right? I come into it brand new, not knowing what I'm doing, feeling like how do I put content out there, and was unwilling to put on a character, and so I've used that term so many times. It's gonna do me. It's gonna do me. And
Yeah.
if it's
Well, and
good
that's
enough,
that's
great. If it's not, that's okay too.
That's authenticity, right? That's right. And that's what we miss in the world, right? I could be a certain character. I mean, there's plenty of people, and I'll speak in the third person. There's plenty of people that can look at Daryn Colledge and be like, they expect me to be some way, or there's some picture of what they expect an NFL player to be, or whatever, or there's some role I could be, or I could act to make sure that I fit in with the things people want, or they want to hear from me, or they're expecting to hear from me, and whatever it might be. And there's plenty of people that are going to do that. There's plenty of people putting fake content out there every single day, whether it be on a podcast or just in life, social
Right.
media, whatever it might be. And I think most of us want some authenticity in our life. We want to know who the people are around us, and those are the people that we want to interact the most we possibly can with, because genuine people, genuine humility, genuine humanity, all those kind of things are what feels like the rarity in the world today, but in all reality, it's probably the majority of us. We're just not getting it.
That's it, man. That's so it. So, Darren, life after the NFL, right? So you come out of
Yeah.
this kind of glory career, right? And then now you're back in the normal life.
Yeah.
There's residue from that, right? There's still relationships, and there's still I can only imagine that there's still a level of financial success you've had there, but now you're back to real life, and you're going, man, do I get a job? What do I do? What do I start a
Yeah.
business? And what's that little transition look like?
I think it's actually super hard. These are one of those. It's it's funny because it'll always be one of those. Oh man, I wish I had those problems, right? Like you always joke about oh man, the privilege problems. But when you're in a position in your mid 30s, lower 30s even, that I had just left a career that I'd been in for 9 years. I'm financially stable and successful, but knowing that I'm not retiring, like it's not going to be one of those things. But now the world is an oyster, right? I can do whatever I want. I can go out and try to become something. I could try to get into radio or TV. I could get into coaching. I could go out and try to start a business. I could do all these things. That in itself actually becomes paralyzing for a lot of people. When you have the choice to do whatever you want, then you can kind of struggle with it. Luckily for me, I only had two avenues I really, really wanted to take, and I knew what they were right away. I disappeared with my family. We had sold our house in Arizona, and we were coming back to Idaho, and we hadn't bought a home yet. And my daughters were 4 and 2, hadn't really started school yet, so we wanted to go travel and go see Europe with them before they had to go back to school. So we left to Europe for about 3 months with some friends for two reasons. One, I wanted to be completely away from the United States and away from football. And because I knew what was going to happen, that if I was here, that I would get a call to come play and I would have nothing going on and I would come back, right? Like I would have had enough time that I would have gotten healthy. I would have felt good. Somebody would have offered me enough money or been like, hey, we need you. Like an old coach would have, pulled the old, hey, we need your card. And I would have been like, yeah. But I knew if I was out of the country and I wasn't training, that I was never going to come back and accept a contract that I knew I couldn't physically be ready for. And so I did. So we left to Europe. We traveled for about 3 months. We rented a little apartment in Italy and lived out of it with our daughters with one AC unit, and just traveled by train and bus around Italy and around Europe, and had an amazing time. I lost, 25 pounds pretty much right away. So and sure enough, I got the call in, June, that one of my coaches needed me back. Here's a really nice offer to come play for another year, a couple more bucks in the bank, and we really, really need you. And I just was, hey, coach, I'd love to be there for you, but I'm not in shape. And he said, hey, totally understand, and appreciated it, and let us go. And it was one of those things where I was like, I knew I made the right decision. But while I was there, I had a buddy, Taylor Tharp, who played here at Boise State also, that was playing in the Italian football leagues. Before that, he had already finished up the Italian football leagues, and I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. And it was one of those things where you got a visa for 1 year to live in the country, and Italy's one of my favorite places in the world. So I was like, well, honey, we get a visa, we can stay for a whole year, and I'm going to make minimum wage, but it's like an 8-game season. And even at 280 pounds, I'm going to, I can put on 10 more pounds, and I'm going to be probably pretty physically pretty good in this league. And we thought about it for about 5 minutes. I thought about it for about 5 weeks, but she thought for about 5 minutes, and it was like, no, we wanted to go home. We knew we wanted to get our girls back to Idaho. We knew we wanted to start our life there. So we didn't do that. But what had been tickling the back of my mind for a long, long time, and really, really since high school when I almost joined the military, but definitely after the Super Bowl, I spent a lot of time after the Super Bowl traveling the USO tours. Everybody hears about Navy entertainment tours. We traveled around with the Lombardi Trophy and got to spend a lot of time in the Middle East, on ships, with Navy and Marines and Army bases and stuff like that, and Air Force bases, spending time with veterans. And I knew that I would spend the rest of my life supporting that group in any way I could. Had my brother was a Green Beret. A lot of military service in my family, so obviously an organization and an idea that I knew was going to be a catalyst in my life for that time, and I would use my B-level celebrity to support. But then it dawned on me that I wanted to do more than that. And I've never been a great Monday morning quarterback. I tell most people I don't talk football. I only talk football because I played it. I don't talk politics because I've never done it. And I never talked military decision wise, about the war or whatever it was, because I've never been there. I've never tried to do that. But I wanted to serve my country, and I wanted to serve the state of Idaho for a million things, for all the support it gave me when I played here, for my scholarship, for all the fans that came out. So I came back and went through the process. I had two jobs in mind. One was working for the military. One was flying airplanes professionally. I was I'm a pilot in my own personal life, and the Army got back to me way faster than the airlines did. So I went down and saw a recruiter, and I was signed up within 2 weeks. I got signed up, went through MEPS, and then was off to boot camp probably a month and a half after that, or a month after that, and joined the Idaho Army National Guard. Served as a helicopter crew chief, served in Afghanistan, worked as medevac crew chief. I was a flying crew chief, got to do all that kind of stuff, and got to do search and rescue in the state of Idaho, got to fight fires in California and Idaho, got to, do all the kind of cool things that job entails, and absolutely loved it. And so that was really the next chapter of my life, was going back and becoming an enlisted member. I didn't go the officer route. I wanted to come up through the bottom ranks. So I started out as a specialist, and went up and became a flying sergeant, and the whole 9 yards, and did the blue collar side of the job, and absolutely loved it.
Oh, that's amazing, man. And you have, are you still in? You're not still in now, right? You're not.
No, I separated from the Guard 2 years ago. So did 6 years of active duty of flying, and then did 2 years of my reserve status. Stepped away from the military after I got diagnosed with cancer. So when I got diagnosed with cancer, I lost my flight status. And oddly enough, that was in my 6th year. And I was in a situation where I was getting ready to re-sign my contract to get ready, because we were actually talking about deploying again, all these things that I wanted to do. Got diagnosed with cancer. And when I lost my flight status, they couldn't guarantee I was going to get it back. We knew no idea what the treatment was going to be. We knew no ending of what it was going to look like. But there was no way the Army could be like, hey, I guarantee you'll be flying again, or my doctors, or anything like that. And I was dead honest with them. I said, I can't resign for another 8 years and then find out that I'm going to be a guy who's going to be behind a desk, after getting to be a guy who bends wrenches on helicopters and flies all over the sawtooths. Like, this just wasn't going to fit my lifestyle. And and part of that's hugely selfish, right? There was still service that could have been done. There was still service that needed to be needed. But selfishly, I knew that I couldn't be one of those guys that was just going to push papers. It wasn't going to work for me. And so I didn't resign. And it was really, really tough. And it was really, really hard, because it was something I really, really loved doing. Loved the guys I flew with. Loved my mission. All those kind of things. But I couldn't be fair to them, to myself, or to my family with it. So I had to step away. So got my 8 years and enjoyed it.
Cancer, man. You just kind of blew by that. Like, talk about this, because I didn't know that. I didn't know you had a bout with the Big C.
Yeah, no, it was actually while I was with Team Rhino. So I was the most interesting thing was I had actually just got done doing a roll, morning roll, and I was working a triangle with somebody or whatever, and I had something, like, I kind of pulled my glute like a little bit, nothing big, just one of those things where it's like,
I actually remember that. I was there that day.
So little snag, and I was like, no big deal, but I'm gonna stop for it today. I wasn't really injured, but I was like, it was one of the last rolls of the day, so I'm like, I'm gonna go home. And I was going to get in the shower and I walked by, and my glute on my right side was like a little higher than my left, and then my left side. And at that time I'm 30, I'm 38 years old, 30 whatever, I don't even know anymore. And I'm like, my butt looks like I'm about 25 years old. So and through jujitsu, I was losing weight, I was getting back down, I was getting leaner and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, dude, I'm like, I think I just pulled a muscle. So and most people that that was all COVID time, right? Like things were super weird at that time. So I go see my chiropractor and I go see my massage therapist. They're both like, yeah, man, this looks like it's a pull. It looks like it's, whatever. It's kind of riding high, the whole 9 yards. But my chiropractor was like, you should probably go see your general just to make sure. And, to go see my general at that time was like, it's like 3 weeks out, right? Like got to get the
Right.
masks, the
Yeah.
whole 9 yards. You're not getting in. So I finally got in to see my general, and she's like, yep, it looks like it's a pull, the whole 9 yards, but we should probably get an MRI on it, make sure there's no fluid on it, and we need to drain. But it's been this long because of all the waiting. Like if there's no pain there, which there wasn't, you're probably just going to want to leave it. So my wife and I are joking around about it for weeks. Like, oh, I'm going to have to get a Brazilian butt lift on their left side to match it, and all of a sudden my ass looks like I'm 25 again, but the rest of me looks like I'm 40. The whole 9 yards. And I finally got my MRI scheduled, and it's probably another 2 or 3 weeks later. And I go in my MRI, I get my scans. I'm joking with them about the same jokes. We're all having a good laugh. We're all talking about like COVID and what real life looks like right now and the weirdness and all that stuff. And I go out to go to the grocery store, and I'm walking down the grocery store aisles, and they've got the arrows, and we can only go down one aisle in the whole 9 yards. And I get a phone call that I don't recognize on my hip. And I'm like, I'll answer when I get back out there. It's a number I don't recognize. So I get out in my car, I load all my groceries, and I pull up my message, and I'm pulling the car out, and it's playing over the speaker. And it goes, hey, this is St. Luke's with your results. We need you to call our cancer docs. Like, we need you to call our uh, oh, why am I forgetting the word all of a sudden?
I'm losing it too. I'm not going to be any help here.
I know. Well, and that's the funny part about it. Like they were like, hey, you need to call the cancer docs in the whole 9 yards. And I'm sitting there going like, but they use the
Oncologist.
technical,
That's what it
yeah,
is.
oncologist. There you
Oncologist.
go. I want to say they told me to call the gynecologist, but no, it's the oncologist. And so they tell me to call the oncologist, and I'm like, I'm a fairly smart person, which this podcast is showing I'm not, but I'm a fairly smart person. I'm like, I'm 99% sure I know what an oncologist is, but I'm like, I'm going to Google that really quick. So I've now pulled the car over in the parking lot, and I think I'm taking up like 5 parking spots, and I'm like, oncology. I'm like, just want to double check that I know what that means. And yeah, so I called them back immediately. I called the oncologist, and the oncologist is like, hey, um, usually I would do this face to face. We'd be having a different conversation. He's like, I can't tell you what this is 100%. He's like, that's not fair. He's like, we need a biopsy and all this kind of stuff. But he's like, I'm 99% sure what it is. Like, I'm one of the few specialists in the state who works in this kind of whatever. And he's like, I'm pretty sure, but we need to get you in for a biopsy. And that's that 30 seconds that we just talked about, right? The play did not go my way. It wasn't the way I thought it was going to go, right? I'm a former professional athlete. I've been to war. I've been back. I've done all these things. I've lived a healthy life. I roll. I eat right. I run. I'm as healthy as a horse. I don't get colds. And all of a sudden, he says the word cancer. And I'm like, hey, that's not what I thought you were going to say and not what I expected. I was expecting a pulled glute and a little bit of liquid, and you're telling me that I have a cancerous tumor. So it was definitely one of those moments that like everything kind of changed, kind of put in perspective. I still had a positive attitude about it. I still had to get my biopsy. I still wanted to wait to hear what it was and all those kind of things. And yeah, it was a trial. It was a tribulation. It was radiation for weeks on weeks on weeks. I went through cancer treatment all by myself. I went to my cancer surgery all by myself. My wife and kids weren't allowed to be there. It was COVID. The hospitals were closed to them. They could only support me at home. So it was really, really, really surreal to go through it. And I tell you, the people, the most surreal thing of all was I donated a jersey to St. Luke's when I first got in the NFL for a buddy whose kid went through the cancer treatment facility there. He asked me to for his foundation, and it was super easy ask. And it used to be framed up in what was the old children's wing of St. Luke's. And anybody that's been in the downtown Boise one, that's been down in the surgery center, if you go in, you'll see my jersey there. And I walked into the St. Luke's all by myself. My wife dropped me off the front door, kissed me, and I had to go in all by myself and got down, got prepped for surgery, did all that stuff, sat in that room by myself. And I looked up, and all of a sudden I was looking at my jersey, and I was like, well, this has really, really gone full circle. Like the last time I
Mm.
was here, I was donating this as a NFL football player, and today I am a patient at the hospital. So yeah, again, just another chapter for sure, a different chapter, and taught me a lot, learned a lot. Wasn't one of those, everybody's got their cancer story. Everybody that's fortunate enough to survive it or not survive it, cancer treats each one of us in a different way. We all react to it differently. We all handle it in a different way. But all of us come out of it different and learn from it. And I don't want to say that I'm going to go out and live my life completely different. I think I was living a good life at that point. I think I was taking advantage of life. I was doing all those things, but it definitely does put a reminder on you that you don't know when the ticket's going to get punched. You don't know when you're going to take your last bow. So you better go out and keep doing those things. And I think it just reinforced that feeling in my life of I'm going to be useful until the day I can't be useful anymore, whether it's to my family, my friends, or to myself. Like it's going to continually grow because you can do everything absolutely right. And I thought I had been doing everything absolutely right. And still you can come up, snake eyes.
Did you? So this, kind of back to the hard thing, right? You thought you pulled a
Yeah.
muscle, but
Yeah.
that pulled muscle. I imagine there was probably some of that was true, right? It was, you did strain
Oh yeah,
something in
no,
there.
it was bound up, and I mean the good thing is when they cut out my tumor, they cut off half my right butt cheek. So I tell most people like I can't really triangle you from my right side, so you should probably work that side. But I also get to half-ass everything for the rest of my life. So that yeah, that top part of my butt cheek is it's missing. I went down a whole pant size without even trying, which was great. So yeah, but it was something that the injury is what caused the notice, and the notice is what caused it to probably be better than it was going to be.
Yeah, yeah. So being thankful for that injury, right? There's that.
Yeah, exactly.
That injury probably
That
saved your
positive
life.
turned into a negative, but ended up turning into a positive.
Yeah. Yeah, man, for real. That's, I guess, that lesson too. Sometimes we got to appreciate those things, right? That setback was started out as an injury that eventually led to diagnosis
Sometimes you
and
got to
treatment.
appreciate, yeah, you got to appreciate the troughs in life. Everybody always wants the highs, but you need the opposite side of that coin. You need the bads to show you what the goods really, really can be. And you don't really know what the bottom looks like. I think the one folly in life is that every man believes the man walking next to them isn't in the same place they are. And it's one of those things where you believe that your pains and your woes are worse, that there's not people doing the exact same thing you are. And whether that's financial, emotional, or cancer, you feel like, woe is me, why me? And it's like, person right next to you is going through the exact same thing. So it's one of those
Yeah.
things where you're gonna be all right. Keep going.
Oh my gosh, man. Oh, there's some good stuff there, Darren. So what's happening these days right now? So you've really pivoted now. Business owners, I want to talk to you for a second. Do you have a retail space inside your location? If so, I want you to think about something. Your customers are buying electrolytes. You know that, right? The problem is they're not buying them from you. Well, Salty Electrolytes can help fix that with their wholesale program. They can bring these sales to you in-house so that your customers get the electrolytes they love from the company they love, you. All you have to do is head over to goearnyoursalt.com and scroll to the bottom of the page and click Apply for Wholesale. Do it now before you forget. I know your type, I'm one of you. Once again, that's goearnyoursalt.com. The link is at the bottom of the homepage. There will also be a link in the description on this video. And now, my friends, go earn your salt. Started
So
a
I did
couple businesses.
Yeah, so while I was transitioning out of the military, I ended up working for Boise State for a couple of years, worked for my alumni association, which was awesome. Loved working for the university. Jeremiah Dickey had just gotten there and all that kind of stuff. Had a great time doing that. But ended up diving more and more into my businesses. Got in a situation where I was a small quiet investor in a restaurant in town, the James Kitchen and Bar. Took a bigger share of that when the time came and became one of the managing partners of it. And then through that time started another small little restaurant called the Sandwich Bar, which we do caterings, and I tell everybody it's an upscale Jimmy John's. We use like local Acme bread and better products. I just tell everybody you deserve a better sandwich. So the sandwich bar does that. And then we started a restaurant called Corso Italian Steak, also on Broadway. We took over the old Murphy's building down there. A lot of people know where that is, like down towards about a quarter mile down from the university. And we started that last year. Where really it's 1 year old now, but we started it 2 years ago. It was about a year long build to get it built out, and we just passed our year mark uh, last month. So that's the new gig right now. And I tell most people, if I knew what restauranting was going to be like, I probably would have gone back to war with cancer. But I love what I love what I do. I love the hospitality business. I love providing people experiences. I think hospitality is extremely important business, and one of the few businesses we ask people for the two most important things in our life: their time and their money. And I think it's a rare thing to get to serve people that way, and they deserve the best of it. And I don't care if you're talking about a cheap college bar or you're talking about the nicest steakhouse in town. It's one of those things where hospitality definitely matters.
Yeah, we all have our favorite places, right? And we
Yeah.
love them because of the hospitality we receive. Right?
Exactly. Everybody wants cheers, right? Everybody wants their places where they feel like they're welcome, that's warm, that they're served right, great service, good food. Most people can get away with C-level food if they can have A-level service. It's just one of those things where people just want to be taken care of. And I think we learned a lot of that during COVID. The things we missed most were our community getting together, gathering over food, gathering over a table, over a beer, whatever it might be. The ability to come together and have those experiences. And all the best experiences in my life are friends and family around tables, whether that's a meal or a beer. And so the opportunity to get to continue to work in that business and provide those new experiences to people every single day, plus the opportunity to give a bunch of people in this city jobs that allow them to feed their kids or try to have a home or help pay for their college, whatever it might be, is an awesome opportunity also.
And I love that you keep coming back to that, gratitude for your community, because you've mentioned that on
Yeah.
several different occasions about how you wanted to serve militarily in Idaho because of what Idaho's
Yeah.
given you as a college student, as an athlete, as you're pouring back in. I kudos to you, man. I love that just attitude of gratitude there.
Yeah, I'm very much a high tide rises all boats, and I came up in a world, supported by parents that believed in, serving their community and making something better than the way they found it. And this community made me better than the way it found me. It's given me everything. It gave me a college degree. It gave me, the opportunity to meet my wife, which obviously gave me my kids. It gave me the chance to serve. It paid for my college. It's given me a life and a purpose that I could never have hoped for. And, a lot of that is hard work. A lot of that's being involved. But this is just a good town, and this is a good community, and it's continuing to grow. It's continuing to evolve and change, but it's still a great place. And I think that it's going to continue to evolve. It's going to continue to change. And there's got to be a group of people that believe in what it was and believe what it can continue to be, and that want to hold on to that. And my small portion of that is the hospitality business. Like I believe in local vendors. I believe in local, you know, I love privately owned restaurants. I love the idea of people that live in this community, that are working in this community. I think that we'll all be eventually replaced by chains if we allow it to happen. So these independent operating restaurants, everything from the Chandler Steakhouses downtown to the taverns, to to your local burger joint that's down the street from you, or pizza joint, supporting these people, giving people jobs in this industry. I think that that's the culture, and that's the sense of your community. And I think that they're really, really important things, and we're just happy to be a part of that. And hopefully we can continue to do that and do it better.
Well said, man. Hey, can we switch gears a little bit here?
Yeah.
We're gonna bring this thing to a close. It's gonna take a little bit here, but we're an hour and 20 in already, man, and just fascinating conversation. It's going fast. So there's a whole bunch more I would love to talk about, but maybe a different time.
Okay.
But I've got some lighter questions for you, and one of them is this podcast is called the Go Earn Your Salt podcast.
Yeah.
That's the tagline for our electrolyte supplement. But when you hear that phrase, "Go earn your salt," what does it mean to you?
Man, if you just told me what that was, I would say, like, I think of salt as in working out. Like, I think of as salt as in putting in the work and going out there and like earning earning that effort, right? Challenging myself every single day. So if that's what it would be to me. Like, how do I go out? How do I earn the work? And I think that the work in itself is obviously what I love the most. I tell most people it's the grind that I enjoy the most, right? And I don't care if it's, trying to get through a Sudoku puzzle or trying to go out and run up a mountain, like whatever it might be. Like, I think we all get gratification from the work that we put into whatever it is. Like, I just got done laying a bunch of flagstones in my front yard with my wife just because she wanted to improve how it looked. And, it was a ton of work and it was a ton of sweat to be out there, and it was hot and all that kind of stuff. But the gratification of getting to complete that job and getting to see the outcome of that, I think is what that would mean to me.
No, beautiful, man. Daryn, what's your favorite pastime these days?
Um, Anything that involves the river. So right now, I love to fly fish. Is one of the hobbies I picked up after I got back from the NFL. One of my buddies introduced me to, and I love it. I love being on the river fishing, and I love being on the water rafting. I love being in the water, with my kids and the wife, or in a boat, whether it be little kayaks or our big rubber round boat or whatever it is. So the river right now is my favorite pastime. Second to that would be working out.
Dude, I don't know if you know this, but I've been a fly fisherman for 30 years, man. That's
Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah.
tell people I've been fishing for like probably 8 to 10, and that makes me probably 2 years into this thing. I don't fish enough. I've always got something to learn. I'm humbled every time I'm on the water. So
Oh, that's beautiful, man. There is something about that, huh? Standing out there in that river with that fly rod swinging and
I think it's hard to explain to some people, but like my wife will, I'll come back, I won't have caught a thing, and she'll be like, "Oh, so it wasn't that great?" And I'm like, "No, I still had an amazing time." There's something
yeah,
about the quiet. There's something about the cast and the rhythm and the battle within yourself and the water and the fish to try to make it work. And sometimes I just accept that I'm not going to win that day. And
yeah,
again, I get my 30 seconds and I try to figure out how I can go out there and do it a little bit better.
yeah. And you hook that one fish and you're good for 10 more trips, right?
Exactly. Or I'll have one day where I got everything right and I'm like, I'm a super, super good fisherman. And then the next day I'll catch nothing.
I love it, man. I love it so much. What's your favorite band of all time?
My favorite band of all time. I listen to a lot of divorced dad rock. Like, I listen to a lot of hate music. I listen to a lot of like Five Finger Death Punch. That's all my military background. Football got me into rap and all that kind of stuff. I grew up on 80s music and 70s listening to, all that kind of stuff. But oddly, I will never change the channel of Journey's on.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah, man. Every time. I love it. I love it.
Every time.
Daryn, what's something that's a little quirky about you that people don't know?
What's something quirky about me? Um, dude, my life's an open book. I don't know if I actually have anything that's quirky. Oh, I hate odd numbers. I don't like chewing gum. I don't like chewing one piece of gum. I chew two. I don't like eating three Skittles. I eat four. I hate odd numbers. I have no idea why. I have two kids. Yeah, I could never have three. I would have to have four. So,
You'd go for twins the second time, huh?
yeah, exactly. I tell my wife she's the only
Oh
single thing
gosh.
I've ever had.
Oh my goodness. I love it. That's a perfect example. All right. Okay,
Yeah.
man, you're in the restaurant business. What is your favorite food?
God, I love a good steak. Like, Corso's an Italian steakhouse, and it's built around the things that I love. I love big pastas and I love steaks. I think the hardest thing about being a 300-pound offensive lineman and now somebody who's trying to be somewhat in shape and a better person, health wise in life, is to turn off that restaurant like valve. Because I eat, it's hard for me to tell you what my favorite food is because I eat everything and all things. I love sample. I'm a real foodie. Like, I want to try new kitchens. I want to, I'll eat anything from Thai food to Vietnamese to Italian to classics to, Greek or whatever. Like, I'll try anything and eat anything. I love it all. But it's hard to beat a good lasagna. It's hard to beat a good steak.
I hear you. I hear you. Darren, scariest moment of your life.
First time I met my daughter when she was born, like realizing that you were in charge of another human being for the rest of its life to make sure that you cared about something more than you. That's a big one. I'll take cancer twice over being in charge of human beings again. Like my kids are amazing, and they've been the biggest challenge and the biggest success and the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. But definitely the biggest challenge, and definitely the scariest moment.
Yeah. I hear you, man. There is that moment of realization where you realize life is different now, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, the funny thing is, you're a single, well, not single, you're married NFL player, you're making a ton of money, you're traveling the world, and you're doing all these cool things, and you think you've got the world licked, and you're playing at the big boy table, and you're doing all this kind of stuff, and then you have kids, and you realize you were at the kids table the entire time. The life's much bigger and much different on this side of the realm, and I would never go back. It's an amazing experience, but
Oh, that's beautiful, man. Daryn, what is the best advice you've ever received?
be useful. That's still the one that I use every single day, to yourself, to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family. Keep being useful.
Yep, you've said that multiple times on the podcast here, man, and it resonates with me when you say it. So, what's something else on your bucket list?
My bucket list, I want to go back to Italy and live for 1 year. I think I just want to disconnect for 1 year and live in like one of those small villages and eat way too much pasta and drink way too much wine and disconnect for 1 year. That's still on my bucket list. I don't think I can play football anymore for him, so it's going to have to just be eating and drinking too much.
That's awesome. So you mentioned to me when we were off air that you're getting ready to do an ultra marathon
Yeah,
this
yeah,
weekend, if I heard you right.
yeah. Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Boise, the I think it's called the Boise Greenbelt Relay, and you can either run it as a relay team or you can run as a 50-mile stretch. So my friend and I, a good buddy of mine, we kind of have a relationship where it's kind of like, hey, you want to try this? Like, it's kind of a back and forth, and we usually do what's called a Misogi most years. And a real Misogi you don't promote, a real Misogi you don't train for. But this one, we were like, we kind of talked to each other, and we were about 50 days out from this 50-mile race, and neither one of us had ever ran over a half marathon. And we were like, hey man, we got 50 days, let's train. You want to try to do this 50-mile race? And I think there's a below 50% chance we even finish it or do it or whatever, but it's been a lot of fun to get ready for, and we're super excited for the challenge to just see what's doing. And it's frankly to go out and do something hard. It's to do something that I don't expect to be successful at, that I know is going to be a huge pain. I tell, my ultimate goal is don't get hurt. My second goal is to just finish. Like that's it. I don't care if it takes me 24 hours, and the race you only get 12 hours to finish the race. I think you only have 10 hours to finish the race, but frankly, I'm going to start, and when I'm done, I'm done. And if that's at 10 p.m. that night, that's when when my race ends. So I just want to go out and do hard things. I want to see what I'm capable of doing. I want
Yeah.
to put myself in uncomfortable places, because I think that's when you learn something about yourself, and that's when the world quiets down just long enough to get some of the answers that you're looking for.
You know, I on the guy interviewed prior to you last
Yeah,
week. I interviewed a gentleman named Josh Sprague, and Josh is an ultra runner,
yeah,
and he talked about he's very encouraging because he said 50 miles is a long ways, but it's something most people can do it at some
yeah,
pace. You
yeah,
know, it may be a pace that's too slow for that 10-hour finish time,
yeah,
but you can do it. So and you're an
yeah,
athlete,
yeah.
man. You got all this stuff's going to come back to you. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that's where it is, right? Like you reach a place in your life, and you reach a place in these races, and you find all these places in life where you decide, is it something you want, right? Am I willing to go through the pain? Am I willing to put in the effort? Am I willing to try to do this thing? We stop short of so many things because we decide that it's not worth it, or we don't realize how close we are actually to success. And it's one of those things where people probably don't put themselves into a place of physical challenge enough. We all feel like we have so much going on emotionally, and that's absolutely true, or financially, or whatever, be relationship wise. But there is something about challenging ourselves fundamentally at a physical level. I tell everybody the hardest thing about leaving football and joining the real world is that football is easy to measure yourself every single day. You get to wake up, win or lose, you look in the mirror, and you know whether you did it you had enough physically, you put enough of the work and you put enough of the effort and you know why you won and lost something. And I think in this world of computers and all that kind of stuff, and the white collar jobs and all the stuff that we deal with in society today, we don't have that measure as much anymore in our day-to-day operations, in our relationships, or in our jobs. That physical thing is something that's innate inside of us. That's, caveman-esque, where it's like to physically go out and be like, I was enough today or I wasn't enough today. You're going to win on either side of that, but you're going to know more about yourself than you knew about going into it. And that's all this is. I'm going to know something about myself in 5 miles, and I'm going to know something about myself in 50 miles, and we'll see what that is.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. Daryn, what's your favorite book of all time? Something you recommend everyone read?
My favorite book of all time that I read at least twice a year is The Count of Monte Cristo.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've got a couple books that are in my regular rotation. I'm always changing. I've always got one or two hard books going. I've always got one or two audio books going. But The Count of Monte Cristo I read or listen to at least twice a year.
What is it about that you love?
It's just one of the great stories of all time to me. It's just a story of overcoming something. It's a story of relationships. It's a story of vengeance. It's one of the most well-written stories, I believe, around, and just one that's been around in my life for a long, long time. So it's something that takes me back to a place. So whenever I'm in between a book, I'm always doing a couple chapters of that if I'm not on my next one. And it's one of the really, really good audiobooks out there. So it's always going in my car too. So it's one of those things where it's like I'll get a couple chapters, and I believe it's about a 43-hour listen. So it's also one of those ones where it's like I just kind of chisel away at it a couple times a year. But I love that. I love that book. It's one of the few that it's in my constant rotation. Probably the only book that gets close to that for me is Atlas Shrugged, which is another one.
Dude, yeah, that's one after its fact hits right.
Yeah,
There
and probably
somewhere.
one that hits a little. Yeah, probably
Right
one of the
there.
ones that, yeah, hits a little closer to home right now in the time that we live in. So
Yeah, it's funny because that book is both comforting and uncomforting, right? It
uh-huh.
because you realize they were dealing with so much of the same stuff clear back then when she wrote that book, but
Yeah.
yet we feel like it's all brand new now. And no,
Yeah.
those same battles.
History
are still gonna
teaches us
happen.
that we're just going through the same thing, just at
Yeah,
a different time.
yeah, yeah. Listen, man, what's next for you? Where are you going from here?
Trying to run restaurants as best I can. This is the goal I'm at right now. Corso's brand new. It's still a baby. It's 1 year old. It's still extremely vulnerable, and it will be for another year. So we're always looking for more customers. We're always looking to spread the word. We're always looking to try to become that community place, and that's always a dangerous time. So I'm doing that right now. The thing in my life is that over the last year, that's been a huge stress in my life, on my family, on me, and all that kind of stuff. And like I told you before, you have to control the things you can control. So I've been on a fitness journey for the last 5 months to get myself back to being back in shape, to running, to lifting, to doing the things that make me really, really happy, and really, really dialing in and controlling things I can control. And right now, that's the things I eat, and the way I treat myself, and the way I treat my family. So my journey right now is two very, very distinct things, but they're very much separated. I'm taking care of myself, taking care of my family, and I'm trying to put my business over here, and I'm trying to help it grow and be the best leader I can right there, while also going out there and being also its biggest cheerleader, and going out and being like, hey, have you tried it? Have you tried it? Have you tried it? Come on in, and
Yeah,
so I can again continue to support the 50 employees that I have, that I want to make sure they're getting their rent paid and all those kind of things, and keep trying to offer things to this community.
oh, that's beautiful. So, quick question: you go into there. What are you weighing in at these days?
255.
255. That's a big ultra runner, dude.
Now, yeah, I got a feeling for weight class. I don't know how many people will be in my weight class today. So it was funny. I ran Roby Creek a couple weeks ago, and ended up finishing like midfield because I was running I'm running my same race pace that I plan on running my ultra at. So I was really just a training run for me to be out there and be like, hey, I'm going to run with people. I'm not going to be pressured to run faster, because I knew that was going to happen. I was like, hey, I'm going to run my eights. I'm going to walk my twos. I'm going to hold my pace the entire time. But I wanted to do it around the run and be tempted. And so I ended up finishing up like mid pack, and then whatever for my age group and the whole 9 yards. But I was like, can we get a weight class here? Because I want to see how many 255-pound guys finished at this time, because that's all I have to hold on to right now, because I'm not fast. I'm not a runner by any means. Like, the farthest I've ever ran is a half marathon. Like, I ran 120-miler before, but I've never done a marathon. I've only raced a half marathon. So it's one of those things where it's like I'm operating in a whole nother sphere. I'm not running quick. It's not like I'm like, oh man, I'm clicking, I'm seeing these cool marathon times. These guys are like, oh, I average a 7 for the whole thing. I'm like, that's not my life. Like, I'm a double digits guy. Like, it's like, if I'm breaking tens, like, we're cooking. I was a downhill. So it's one of those things where I'm a diesel, man. I got a low in torque, and I'm gonna keep rolling the miles. But the retread for 50 miles, it may come off. So I'm gonna have an extra pair of shorts, an extra pair of shoes. I don't know what's going to happen, what 50 miles looks like, but I'm super excited to find out.
That's funny, man, because they always say if you're over 190 pounds, they put you in. The term is Clydesdale. Have you heard that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't ranked on the damn timesheet they gave me. I'm like, I want to know where all the Clydesdales are. But I think it's funny that 190 pounds is Clydesdale. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
190 pounds, that's the lightest guy in the football field. What are you talking about, 190 pounds?
Oh my gosh.
That's not like 190 pounds. I've lost 80 pounds. Like, what are you talking about?
That's right. That's awesome, man. Well, listen, dude, where can you be found? Are you on the social medias, or you?
Yeah, man, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn, like every other business owner. You can most of the time find me at the James and find me at Corso, man. That's where I live. I work at Corso a couple of days. I'm always at the James. I'm in my businesses, man. I'm trying to be with the community. I'm trying to support my employees. And I tell most people, like, if you take away the fact that I'm in the NFL, I'm actually probably just the normal dude having a beer with you down the bar. So.
Well, listen, dude, that's something that I always noticed about you. Like, you're on the mats with us, and we're all grappling, and we're all from different stages of life. And some guys in there are young kids just coming out of high school. Some guys, working landscaping. Some guys, you're an NFL guy, and yet you were just one of the gang. And then that was always cool, dude.
Yeah.
I always appreciated that about you.
I've been super, super fortunate and super, super blessed to have the opportunity I had to do what I did. But I am absolutely a normal guy who got to be put in a unique situation, who's gotten to do the best things. It's always funny. I always tell everybody the richest guy I ever met, I met in overalls. And it's one of those things, like, you don't know who's around you. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know what their story is, but you do know the way they act and the way they're treated. And I hope most people will understand and will see me as, that's a nice guy. That's a humble guy. That's a guy that wants to help, the guy that wants to be a part of his community and do those things. And I've never, ever tried to put myself above anybody, even though, frankly, I know I'm better than a couple people.
I love it. Dude. Well, Daryn, thanks for taking the time with me today, dude. I'm truly honored by the
All right, my
spending
pleasure,
a couple
man.
hours
Absolutely.
with me.
No, it's
Hopefully
great seeing you, man.
You'll get on the mats and kick my butt with that right-handed
Dude,
triangle.
it's unlike riding a bike. It's going to be start over, man. They're going to take all my tape. They're going to take all my belts. I'm going to have to start over completely.
Oh, man. That'd be awesome, dude. Well, Daryn, go earn your salt, my friend.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.
Hey, you've just finished up this episode, and I want to know, are you or someone you know a getting after it, go earn your salt type of person? If so, message me directly on Instagram at the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, and perhaps we can have you on the show. Also, if you like this content, leave us a review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And perhaps this podcast can help you and them go earn your salt.